This is a Europhile review of Baby Boom by Max Vallemois, or Ludicom editions. It's a dice game where you never actually roll the dice. In some of the variants in the rulebook, there's 3 different variants. In some of them, there's no luck at all, which is very odd for a dice game. I think it's a extremely good short filler game. There's so much packed into this small box, if not in terms of contents, but in terms of strategy and fun in the game. It's not a well-known game. It's probably quite hard to come by, but it's well worth looking up. It plays for 2 to 4 players in a short time frame, and it makes a really great filler. As you can see, it's based around the sort of theme of Super Bomberman, those classic Nintendo and other, I'm sure it's on other platforms as well, but those classic games where people move around a grid and bombs explode and take out other players. And it's a very good board game implementation of that idea. The box is alarmingly pink and gaudy, with this odd baby sort of graphic and these odd baby-like, dummy components. I'm not sure that this is all the best idea in terms of actually marketing this game, but that said, the game itself is well worth a try, and overlooking those sort of garish graphics, I think that there's a lot to enjoy here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the game plays and tell you why I enjoy it. The rules describe a basic version of the game and then 2 different variants. But it is a game that you are intended to play repeatedly during one sitting. So I tend to play it as 3 rounds. The first round we play the basic game, the second round we implement the first variant, and then in the third game we implement the second variant, which has all the rules of the first variant plus more. So it works quite nicely as a sort of staged game where you introduce new rules. In the first game, there's no luck at all. We just have an empty grid. Now you can see how small this board is. These are regular sized dice, and they fill up the board quite neatly. There are dice left over here. This is because we're playing a 4-player game, so each player has fewer dice than they would in a 2-player or in a 3-player game. The game is probably best at 4 players because you get quite a lot of banter in this game, and there's quite a few times where you have a choice of taking out one player or taking out another. So there's quite often a little bit of bargaining going on there. No, if you take him out, this will happen. Don't take me out. That would be a bad move because of this and this. And that's quite fun. You can get quite a bit of banter going around the game in that way. The way the game works is that the dice belong to each player. So the yellow player has 3 dice, blue player has 3, green and red, and so on. On a player's turn, so we've got here the starting player marker is for green, the green player will get to move one of his dice, and he has to move one. But when he moves it, it starts to count down. So he's moved that there, that's a 4 now. We now go on to the red player, and the red player is going to move this one for 4. And then the yellow player will move this one for 4. And now it's back round to blue, and blue will go here for 4. Now it's green's turn again. So let's go. So green will go up here for 4. And then, who's next? Yellow. So yellow's going to go here for there. Now we'll go down to a 3. And now blue's turn. And blue is going to do something which I haven't explained yet, which is because blue has a 5 and here's a 4, blue can push him. So blue will push the green to there. The green will go down to a 3 and the blue will go down to a 4. As this increases, throughout the game, as we go round and round, these will go down to, 3, 2, 3, and so on until we're at 1, and then an explosion will occur. So when an explosion occurs like this, that will explode in both directions and it will kill all of these dice. Clearly, once one explosion goes off, the others are likely to be on low values as well by now, and they're going to be nearing explosion too. So you tend to find there's very tactical early stages in the game, and then suddenly everything starts exploding, and the game's over very quickly. At the end of the game, you calculate how many points are left on the board. Well, this is still worth 1 point, and it can't. Once it's exploded itself, it can't be exploded by anybody else. So the green player would score 1 point for having that. The blue player has on his faces 4 and 4, so the blue player has 8 points. I should say at this point, actually, this can't be the end of the game, can it? Because it's last man standing. So at the end of the game, you're more likely to have something like this. You might have one player with some dice left on there, but everyone else is going to be exploded or removed altogether. So it's more likely to look something like that. In which case, the blue, he actually only has 2 points. Yellow has 1 point. But red has managed to keep some of his alive. He's the last man standing. He's got 4 because he's got a 3 and a 1. And so that would be the first round of the game. In the first variant version of the game, when a dice explodes, you roll another dice to see how far it explodes. So when this one explodes, it's only going to explode 3 spaces in either direction. 1, 2, 3, which is a full row from that position. But if it was here, for example, it would explode that way, but it would only go 1, 2, 3. So it wouldn't get this yellow dice. And obviously if he rolled a 2 or a 1, that would be even worse. If he rolled this one, the explosion, then he would just explode and nothing else would be hit. So the first variant adds a little bit of luck, with how far these explosions go, although the majority of them will tend to reach the edge of the board. The second variant starts to add in these extra tiles. We have a pit that you can push dice into to kill them. We have a bomb, and if you're pushed onto that, then your dice is going to explode and take out other dice. We have a wall, which blocks the explosions, depending on which side you put it on. We have a conveyor belt, and if you move onto this, then you automatically move 1 extra step, or if you're pushed onto it, it can push you an extra step. And we have a ping pong device, which means that if you move here, you'll go there. Or if you move here, you'll go there. You sort of bounce off it. There's a few of these, and it makes for a much more sort of chaotic game in that second sort of variant. I visited Essen last year for the first time, and while I was at Essen, I was looking for unusual games that I could bring home that I thought I wouldn't be able to get in the UK. I must admit, I didn't search this one out. This one was not on my list, and I think if I'd seen the box and the garish sort of pink graphics and all that sort of thing, I probably would have thought this isn't for me. Although to other people this might look like great fun. It's not my style really of game. But what I did pick up were these 2 games from Ludicom. So Columba, which is a tile laying game, where you're setting up pigeon what's the term? Well, anyway, you're laying tiles to collect pigeons essentially. It's a very attractive, very tactile French game. And then Ariala Canal de Garonne, which is a sort of French light area control game. When I bought the 2 of these, little known to me, but I was going to be given a free gift, which was this. So this was a free gift from Ludicom when I bought the other 2, and it turned out that this was the best of the bunch. I mean, the other 2 are good games, but this really is, I think it's a great little game. It's become my favourite filler game. You can play it quickly, it's easy to teach, it's portable, so between games this is great, and it plays well with 2, plays well with 3 or 4. I love it. I consider it in the same sort of category as For Sale, as a quick filler game to play between other games. I used to play a lot of Bomberman when I was a kid, so there's a high nostalgia value in there for me. It really does feel like Super Bomberman, which is great. It's strategic in terms of moving those dice around. There's lots of laughter. Destroying other people's dice is, it's fun. I think in a longer game I might struggle a bit with it, but in this sort of game I enjoy that sort of quick, direct conflict. For me, this is a superior game to something like King of Tokyo, which is a direct conflict sort of elimination game with that sort of retro Nintendo graphic sort of design. I like King of Tokyo, but King of Tokyo is very widely distributed. You know, everybody has a copy down at my sort of local games days and this sort of thing. I think this, with a more lavish design, could be just as good a game. You know, I hope that this designer Max Valenbois he's a first time designer. I hope that he gets to revisit this game into a more sort of lavish production. Those little random tiles, the pinball tiles and the pits and the bombs and things. There's not much of them in this game because it's so small. But you could imagine a sort of Robo Rally style board where you know these dice could really get to move around, and that dice countdown exploding mechanic is so obvious and yet so clever. And it's nice to play a dice game where there really isn't any luck, but the dice are still being used really effectively. I think it's a great game. I don't know whether you'll be able to get a copy, but have a look around, see if you can get one, and if you can pick it up at a decent price, I'd say this is well worth acquiring.